Good afternoon. My name is Wilmer, and today I will interview Dr. Eric Vanderberg. He is a PhD in evolutionary ecology at the University of California, a master in biology in Simon Fraser University, and he has a degree in zoology in University of Washington. So nice to meet you.
Thank you. Likewise.
Okay, so he is also the associate professor of ecology environment in in and development. So as a brief introduction, I would like that you tell me how does a normal freshwater ecosystem is composed.
Okay, normal freshwater ecosystem will include biota from everything from phytoplankton to zooplankton to small fishes and larger fishes which eat the smaller ones, and a variety of birds which are also feeding on fish, as well as turtles and possibly some other mammals or crocodiles in this area.
Okay, so according to Yojoa, explain me how does a normal ecosystem is. What do you think is the main problem of producing tilapia in cage in Lake Yojoa?
Okay, a couple of problems. First is the cage in itself is not the problem. The problem is that the cages are not escape proof. There's no cage where the fish cannot escape. If they escape, you are introducing an element into the ecosystem which is not naturally present, and that can have drastic effects. Usually when you introduce species, one of two things happens. One is that the species doesn't survive and nothing happens. The other is that you're introducing a species which is a better competitor in that ecosystem. The local species don't know how to compete with it, and the local species lose.
Okay, so I will focus in the two things on how tilapia involves or behaves in this new ecosystem, and I also would like to to talk more about introducing a new species. So my new question is, how does a tilapia behave in different environments, and how tolerant can tilapia be to adverse situations?
Tilapia, it turns out, are highly adaptable. They originate in Africa, as you know, and they have the a parental care system which is much more advanced than any of the local species, and that gives them an advantage for the survival of their young. If there's danger, they take the young into their mouth and swim away and go away from the danger. The local species just try to guard the group and lose a lot of their young to predators. So, without fighting with the local species, without competing for food, they just have the potential to multiply much faster. Okay, so the problem is not the cage in itself. The problem is introducing the species and not being able to guarantee that the species won't get loose in the lake.
Okay, so I did also read that they are very adaptable to many types of salinity, pH, and also to temperature. So they are easily adaptable and they have an advantage, right?
Right. That adaptability in the case of tilapia is called euryhaline, which means they can tolerate a large range of salty conditions, so that that's particularly significant if they get into rivers, because if the lake is connected to a river, then they can travel down the river and even survive in the ocean and spread from there. So in the Caribbean, some islands and reefs have problems with tilapia.
Okay, so according to that, how is the tilapia diet based according to its stage of growth? I'm asking you this question because I did also read that tilapia is not did not eat other fishes, but there is like a stage of growth that the tilapia eats like little fishes and also eat like the eggs or of other fishes.
As you mentioned before, tilapia are highly adaptable.
Mhm.
In their native habitat, they feed mostly on plankton, but they're not stupid. If there are eggs or if there's if there are other protein sources, they'll eat them. And so just because they don't eat those things where they're found naturally doesn't mean they won't eat those things if they're presented with a new food source. And that happens a lot when they're introduced into a new environment. They have the ability to eat practically anything.
Okay, so you told me that the cages are very easily that a fish, or not very easily, but a fish can go away from this cage, right? But like in Lake Yojoa, that there are like approximately like 8 new species introduced in this lake. So what happens after introducing a new species into this ecosystem, and what will happen if there are like a lot of these new species? What will happen to the native species?
Um, if you're introducing 8 new fish, presumably you're introducing species which are going to be good for aquaculture, which means they're highly adaptable, fast growing, and very competitive. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that the native species are going to minimally suffer, but probably disappear completely. So that's what I would expect.
So this act of introducing a new species, would you consider it like a pollution or alteration of this biodiversity?
Um, I like the term pollution. Actually, I published a paper in which I called tilapia biological pollution.
Okay.
Um, and so it depends. At this point, the lake is probably beyond recovery unless you kill every fish in the lake and then reintroduce some of the native species if you still can find them. Um, that's the only way you're going to recover that ecosystem. Um,
Okay, so in this lake there are also problems of eutrophication.
mhm.
Okay, so I don't know if this eutrophication has something to do with this tilapia growing in cage, or it's about another pollution, or what is happening.
It's a very shallow lake, so eutrophication in that lake is not necessarily a product of something people did, but probably just a natural consequence of it being so shallow, surrounded by rich ecosystems, and a lot of nutrients just get into the lake. Eutrophication tends to be very common in very shallow lakes, just like Lake Nicaragua, Lake Managua. High in nutrients, favors tilapia, favors some of these species that can also eat plankton.
And how do you think it can reverse or mitigate the damage caused to this lake? You told me that you can kill all the fishes, but how you can mitigate, or there is no like a point where you can do that?
There's no way to selectively catch tilapia. Okay, you can use nets and you can keep only the tilapia and return the others. The tilapia multiply really fast, so even just a few tilapia still left in the lake will take over again. So the only way, and there are a lot of examples where tilapia have been introduced. There's only one case I know where tilapia did not establish themselves successfully in a lake that was oligotropic. There were very few nutrients there. After about 10 years, they disappeared. Initially, they were successful, but then they eliminated their own food supply and disappeared. But in a system where they are successful, the only thing is going to be poison the entire lake, kill every fish in it, and then start fresh.
Okay, so in this lake, what role does the government, the people, and the community has? Because these fishes, they take the money to sustain their families, and I want to know your point of view, what role they have in this.
What is bad from an ecosystem point of view is not necessarily bad from the point of view of the local people. Okay, there are lots of restaurants. The clients eat the ask for tilapia. They sell very successfully. There's an economy based on them. So at this point, if the native species have disappeared and they've been replaced by the introduced species, there is not an overwhelming or compelling reason why we need to eliminate the tilapia. There's a new ecosystem now. It's not the original ecosystem, but they can still contribute to the local economy.
Okay.
So it's not. So if you want to control the tilapia, you poison everything. But if the economy and the rest of the ecosystem is working, let it go. Let it be.
Okay, so how should be a sustainable production of tilapia? Okay, so not contaminating the environment and also gaining some money for these families.
Basically, with tilapia, fish them as much as you can. There's one problem that usually occurs in lakes where tilapia have been introduced, for example in Lake Yojoa in Nicaragua. Tilapia initially multiply, they're nice and big, but after a few years they keep multiplying and there are so many that there's not enough food for them. So you get lots of little tiny tilapia that don't grow very much. So the way to keep the numbers from increasing beyond their normal carrying capacity is to keep fishing them. Keep removing the big ones, so to make space for the little ones, smaller ones, to keep feeding.
Okay, so as a final conclusion, what would be your words for this environment and for the people of this lake?
Well, the system is what it is right now. If it's working for the people, if they can catch them and make a living and there's a market for the fish, keep fishing them. Keep catching them.
Okay, so thanks for your time.
Okay, you're welcome.